Hi guys, how are you all? This is Adya Talwar and I've started this channel for PGT Economics aspirants, for the aspirants of PGT Economics examination, those who are filling the forms related to PGT Economics. This channel is basically for them. Guys, lockdown is opening up, markets are opening up, and somewhere you people have started receiving notifications from various government departmental undertakings. Though you have not received any notification related to PGT economics examination, but probably very soon you people will get admit card related to the examination. And yes, examination will be in September or October as per the status or what I have heard related to the exams. Now obviously we have to start the preparation right now only, though the exam will be in September or October जो अभी तक सुनने में आ रहा है, but yes, we have to start the preparation related to the exam. Now when we are starting with the examination, when we are starting with the preparation, the first thing that comes in our mind is what topic, which all topics to be started, which book should I refer, etc and etc. Right, obviously you must be confused related to these questions, that okay, which book should I study, what all topics need attention, etc. Now in this channel I will be taking some of the important topics of PGT economics examination. Now what are these topics? Guys, after studying, after going through various books, after going through the various question papers of KVs, DSSSB, what I realized is there are certain topics which are unavoidable as far as examination is concerned. These topics are like you people will definitely get one or two questions or three questions from each of this topic. Now obviously when consumer behavior is there, economics history of India is there, these questions are very important, these topics are very important, and you will be getting questions from these topics. So this is basically the list of those topics which I realized that okay, examination you will be getting questions. Now, as far as this video is concerned, I have started this video by taking the first topic, that is consumer theory. We people will be studying about the consumer theory in this video. Now, before initiating, before starting with the term consumer theory, before going deep into the consumer theory, we must be aware of the term utility. Now, what is utility? Guys, utility is basically want satisfying power of a commodity. Now what is want satisfying power? I need an apple, I need laptop, I need mobile, I want this, I want that. So what are these are basically my wants. And why I want these goods? Because these goods are giving me satisfaction. So if I keep economics aside, मैं economics को बिल्कुल side पे रख के सोचूं what is utility in a very straightforward manner, utility implies the satisfaction that I get by consuming a product. Right, if I'm consuming an apple, that apple is giving me satisfaction. I'm consuming a water, that glass of water is giving me a satisfaction. I am sitting on a chair, it is giving me a kind of satisfaction. So utility, so guys, utility is basically want satisfying power. I'm sitting on a chair, it is giving me a satisfaction. I'm using this laptop, it is giving me a satisfaction. I'm using a mobile, it is giving me a satisfaction. So what is utility? Utility implies that how that commodity is satisfying your need, how that commodity is satisfying or giving you a kind of satisfaction. So what is utility? Utility is nothing but the want satisfying power of a good. Now there are two approaches of utility. Number one approach is the cardinal approach and number two approach is the ordinal approach. Now what is basically cardinal approach? Let us understand. Now cardinal approach, also known as Marshallian approach. Now why it is known as Marshallian approach? Because it was given by Alfred Marshall. Now what cardinal utility approach states? Cardinal utility approach simply states that utility can be measured. That is, you can quantify utility. If I'm consuming an apple, it is giving me certain satisfaction and you can easily quantify it, and this satisfaction is measured in terms of utils. Now what is basically utils? Utils is the unit of utility. For example, when you are measuring weight, you can measure weight in kgs, you can measure height in centimeters, you can measure any of the liquid item in liters, right? So similarly, you can measure utility into utils. So what does cardinal utility approach says? Cardinal utility approach says that utility can be measured, and it can be measured in terms of utils, and it is given by Alfred Marshall, and that's why this is known as Marshallian approach. Now, what is ordinal utility approach? You must have found something awkward in cardinal utility approach. I said utility can be measured, and that too in terms of utils. What it implies? It implies basically that when you are consuming an apple, you say that I am getting 25 utils of satisfaction. When you are consuming a banana, I'm getting 15 unit utils of satisfaction. I'm sitting on a chair, it implies it is giving me 26 units of satisfaction or utils of satisfaction. So what you people must have focused that, okay, I am quantifying utility. I am saying 25 utils, 45 utils, 100 utils of satisfaction. Now, economists objected on it. Economists said that, look, how can you quantify utility? From where have you taken out the number 25, 45, 35? That is how you can measure the utility. It cannot be measured. It is a qualitative term. If you are sitting on a chair, how can you say that chair is giving me 100 utils of satisfaction? If you are consuming an apple, how can you say that it is giving you 25 utils of satisfaction? So how can you quantify utility? That was the objection raised by various economists, and yes, the approach originated was the ordinal utility approach. Now, what was the principle of ordinal utility approach? Principle of ordinal utility approach was very simple. That is, utility cannot be measured. It can only be ranked. That is, you can only rank the utility. You cannot measure the utility. For example, guys, if you have three fruits, for example, apples, bananas, and mangoes, and you like apples the most, second number bananas, third number mangoes, then you can say apples will give me highest level of satisfaction, second level of satisfaction bananas, third number of satisfaction mangoes. So apples are preferred over bananas, bananas are preferred over mangoes. So that implies that utility is ranked. You are not quantifying the utility, you are not giving any number to the utility, you are just ranking it, and that's why it is known as the ordinal utility approach, and it was basically given by Hicks. So this approach is also known as the indifference curve analysis. I'll let you know in the end why it is known as indifference curve analysis, but yes, this approach is also known as indifference curve analysis as well as the Hicksian approach, right? So this was basically the ordinal utility approach. Now let us move further. Next is basically, let us go deep into these approaches. Let us study the details of these approaches. But before studying the details of these approaches, you need to be, you need to be very confident with some terminology related to the concepts. For example, total utility, marginal utility, and very important, from where you people will definitely get a question, that is law of diminishing marginal utility. First of all, what is total utility and what is marginal utility? First of all, utility. What is utility? That is amount of satisfaction that you will be getting, right? So that implies the utility. Now, what is marginal utility? What is total utility? Guys, if you are consuming an ice cream, right? You are consuming an ice cream. Marginal implies the additional. Utility implies the satisfaction. So what is marginal utility? Marginal utility means satisfaction that you get by consuming an extra unit. Guys, point to note, extra unit. It is not the total satisfaction. So if you are consuming first ice cream, how much satisfaction that you have got by consuming the first ice cream is the marginal utility. If you have consumed two ice creams, right? So what is marginal utility of second ice cream? Marginal utility of second ice cream means how much satisfaction that you have got from the second item only, that is the second ice cream only, not with the first ice cream. You have to conclude, you have to calculate the satisfaction that you have derived, utility that you have got by consuming the second ice cream. Similarly, the third ice cream, when you'll be consuming the third ice cream, say you will be getting the three utils of satisfaction from the third ice cream. So marginal utility means how much satisfaction that you will be getting from the third ice cream. Now what is total utility? Total utility means total satisfaction that you get by consuming some specific units of a commodity. I'm taking the example of ice creams again. Now if I want to analyze the, okay, that tell me what is the total utility I will derive by consuming two ice creams. It means from the first ice cream how much have you got, plus from the second ice cream how much have you got. That implies 5 plus 4 9, which means 9 is the total satisfaction that I've got by consuming two ice creams. Similarly, if I will be asking that, okay, what is the amount of satisfaction that you have got after consuming three ice creams? After consuming three ice creams, that implies that, okay, from the first ice cream I've got 5, from the second ice cream I've got 4 utils, from the third ice cream I've got 3 utils. So total utility that I've got from consuming 3 ice creams is basically 12 utils of satisfaction. So one thing I want to conclude, that TU is nothing, that is total utility is nothing but the summation of all marginal utilities, that is sum of all marginal utilities. And what is marginal utility? Marginal utility is nothing but total utility of the first, or total utility of the second minus total utility of the first. So this is the difference between marginal utility and total utility. Now, obviously, one thing you people must have noticed, that when I want you to analyze the table again on the screen, you people have seen that, look, as far as the ice creams are concerned, when I'm consuming first ice cream, I'm getting 5 utils of satisfaction from the first ice cream. When I'm consuming the second ice cream, I'm getting 4 utils of satisfaction from the second ice cream. And when I'm consuming third ice cream, I'm getting 3 utils of satisfaction. So I'm increasing the ice creams, I'm increasing the quantity of ice creams. What is happening to the individual satisfaction from the ice cream, that is satisfaction from the main unit, is continuously decreasing. Guys, this is known as law of diminishing marginal utility. What does law of diminishing marginal utility states? It simply states that as you go on increasing the consumption of a good, the satisfaction derived from each unit decreases. That is, when you are going to consume a product, the satisfaction that you will derive from each product, from each successive unit, it goes on declining. Chalo, nahi samajh aaya. Let us understand it deeply. I'm very thirsty from last 3 hours. I'm very thirsty. Okay, I got first glass of water. मुझे immediately पहले glass पानी मिला. एक glass पानी पिया मैंने. After drinking that water, I will get the maximum satisfaction, right? Because I was very thirsty. उसके बाद मैंने second glass of water लिया. Now the satisfaction that I will be getting from second glass of water will be little less. फिर मुझे third glass of water दे दिया गया, मैंने third glass of water लिया, उससे satisfaction और भी कम हो गई. Now I am not thirsty at all, लेकिन मुझे fourth glass of water दे दिया गया, जिसकी वजह से my satisfaction was zero. That is, मुझे उस glass से कोई satisfaction नहीं मिली because I'm not thirsty at all. Suddenly मुझे fifth glass of water दे दिया गया. That implies now it is like it is actually creating a dissatisfaction. I'm feeling vomited, right? So that implies the fifth level of fifth glass of water is creating a dissatisfaction, which is known as disutility. So what is happening? Law of diminishing marginal utility states that as you go on increasing the quantity of the product, I want you to see the screen. I have taken the example of slice of bread on the screen. So as you go on consuming a product, the satisfaction that you derive from each successive unit goes on diminishing. So at 1 level you were getting 50 utils, 2 level you were getting 40 utils, 3 level you were getting 20 utils, 4 level you were getting 10 utils. Now you are not hungry at all, still you have to consume that product, it is giving you 0 utils, and then you are over with that product, and still if you are consuming it you will get a minus satisfaction, that is the dissatisfaction, disutility, or the negative of satisfaction. So I hope now the law of diminishing marginal utility is clear to you. And because of law of diminishing marginal utility, I want you to see the graph. Guys, one trick, remember every time, whenever there are two variables, for example, size of bread and marginal utility, when one is increasing, other is declining, that is opposite relationship between the two, you will get a downward sloping curve. You will get a downward sloping curve. So marginal utility will be downward sloping. Why? Because when you are increasing the consumption of bread, for example, you are at this level, when you are increasing the consumption of bread, at the first glass of water you are getting highest satisfaction, second glass of water less number of satisfaction, then फिर भी अगर आप consume करते हो zero level of satisfaction, और फिर भी उसके बाद consume करते हो, तो it will be a negative level of satisfaction. So that's why the marginal utility curve is downward sloping, negatively sloped. And what is total utility? You are already aware that total utility is nothing but the summation of marginal utility. So when you are actually consuming the product, initially total utility is increasing at an increasing rate. Guys, why it is an increasing at a diminishing rate, sorry, at a diminishing rate? Why at diminishing rate? Because initially you were getting 50 total utility, then you were getting total utility 90, then you were getting 110. Now that implies total utility is increasing at a diminishing rate. Increase तो वो होगा क्योंकि marginal utility positive है. Marginal utility जब तक positive रहेगी, आपकी total utility increase होती रहेगी. उसके बाद it is zero at fifth unit. See the table, it is zero. It is saying कि अब अगर मैं consume करती हूँ तो कुछ add नहीं करेगा वो total utility में. Since it is not adding to the total utility, तो total utility वहीं पे constant हो जाएगी and it will be highest. उसके बाद अगर मैं फिर से consume करूंगी glass of water, it is giving me disutility. Satisfaction decline हो जाएगी, that is -10 हो जाएगी, and -10 when it will be added to 120, it will give you 110. So total utility will start declining. I want you to see the graph, and this will give you a relationship between total utility and marginal utility. You can get a question on the difference, on the relationship between total utility and marginal utility. For example, you will be asked that okay, what will happen to the marginal utility when total utility is maximum? So you have to say marginal utility will be 0. So what is this relationship? Let us analyze that relationship. Guys, see, when marginal utility is declining and positive, very important, जब तक marginal utility positive रहेगी, चाहे वो decline हो रही हो, total utility will be increasing. When marginal utility is 0, total utility will be maximum, क्योंकि इसके बाद वो total utility में add होने के लिए कुछ है ही नहीं. उसके बाद marginal utility will be negative, so total utility will start declining, because total utility is nothing but the addition of the marginal utilities. So we have 3 points related to this. When marginal utility is positive, total utility increases. When marginal utility is 0, total utility is at maximum. When marginal utility is negative, total utility decreases. Right? Okay, one more thing related to law of diminishing marginal utility, जहां 1 marker बनता है, क्योंकि it was first explained by a German economist Gaussen, so it is also known as Gaussen's first law. Also, law of diminishing marginal utility is known as the fundamental psychological law. So both the points are very important. Law of diminishing marginal utility is known as Gaussen's first law, as well as law of diminishing marginal utility is the first fundamental psychological law. So guys, this was related to the basics of the utility that I have discussed. You can test yourself after studying this. I have given you certain questions, like, I mean, these are the one markers only, and you will be asked one markers objective type questions in this. For example, number one question, want satisfying power of a good is called utility. You are very much aware, want satisfying power of a good is called utility. What are the two approaches of utility? You should be aware, cardinal utility approach and ordinal utility approach. In which analysis can utility can be measured in definite numbers such as 1 2 3? You're very much aware, it is the cardinal utility approach which was given by Alfred Marshall. कार्डिनल यूटिलिटी अप्रोच को और क्या बोलते हैं, मार्शलियन अप्रोच भी बोलते हैं. Under dash approach, utility can only be ranked, it is the ordinal approach. Ordinal concept of utility express utility in terms of ranking, utility in terms of level of satisfaction. When marginal utility is negative, अभी हमने किया relationship, when marginal utility is negative, total utility will be declining. Law of diminishing marginal utility states that when more and more units of a commodity are consumed, what will happen to the marginal utility? It will fall. When total utility is increasing at a diminishing rate, marginal utility must be positive because total utility is increasing. अभी highest भी नहीं हुई है, अभी declining भी नहीं हुई है, so marginal utility will be declining but positive. When only one unit of a commodity is consumed, सिर्फ एक ही यूनिट कंज्यूम किया तो टोटल यूटिलिटी और मार्जिनल यूटिलिटी सेम होंगे. Additional unit of a good is called total utility is maximum when marginal utility. They are saying that look, additional unit of a good is called total utility. Sorry, it is confused. There are two questions here. Additional unit of a good is called marginal utility. Total utility is maximum when marginal utility is zero. Law of diminishing marginal utility is also known as Gaussian's law. First psychological law under consumers equilibrium is basically law of diminishing marginal utility. Utility can be ranked as a phenomenon under utility approach. Guys, I hope you like this video. Thank you so much. If you like this video, please subscribe and press the like button. Thank you so much. It will actually motivate me for making another video. Thank you.